Math 155, Section 4.4 Integrated Review. So this lecture video, let's take a look at conversion between fractions and percent. So in the last video, I mentioned the reason why we convert percent into decimals or a fraction is so we can add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So, all right, so real quick, the following examples are converting fractions and mixed numbers and turn them into percent. All right. So these are fractions. Okay. So what we had last time is turn decimal, okay, into a percent. But now what I can do into a percent. So basically now what we're doing is adding another type of problem or adding another step, which is start you off with a fraction. So basically, last time we go from decimal to percent and go from percent back to decimal. So now what I can do is start off with a fraction and go to decimal and then go to percent. And then in a minute, we're going to go from percent back to decimal, back to fraction. Okay? So a lot of these we can do in the calculator. It just whenever we want to convert between decimal and percent, decimal to percent, we times 100, percent back to decimal, we divide it by 100 or move the decimal places. So basically, change the fraction to a decimal place. That's the first thing we're going to do, which we can let the calculator do that. 40 divided by 100. So that will give me 0.4. So now, once I'm at 0.4, what that means is I'm actually at decimal. So go from decimal to a percent. In the calculator, all I gotta do is times 100. Or just by looking at it, move the decimal to the right 2 places. So my answer is 40%. All right. 17 over 25. So let's take 17 divided by 25. 0.68 as the decimal. Convert into a percent. 0.68, sorry. Convert into a percent, move the decimal to the right 2 places, or in the calculator to make sure you say times 100. Okay, so that gives me 68%. All right, I keep on doing the calculator is because the mixed number. So this mixed number is 2 and 4 over 15. So last time we said any decimal bigger than 1 is already over 100%. So basically, this whole number 2 tell me my final answer is going to be 200 some percent. Okay, so let's put this in the calculator real quick. So parenthesis 2 plus 4 divided by 15. Close parenthesis. If I press enter right now or equal right now, it will give me the decimal answer. But once I turn to decimal answer, the next step to convert into percent is times 100 or move the decimal to the right 2 places. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in times 100. Okay, make sure this parenthesis is closed. Times 100 right away and convert them into a percent. So it says round your answer to the nearest tenth if necessary. So this is going to be 226.7%. Okay, 226.7%. So that means if I did not type in times 100, that would be 2.26 repeating 6 as decimal. That's why when I move my decimal to the right 2 places, okay, and then round to near tenth, this is going to be my answer. All right, let's do it vice versa, okay? Changing percent, start you out with a percent, and we can turn them into a fraction or a mixed number. We probably going to turn them into a mixed number is only for if I'm over 100%. Okay, just like this one. This is over 100%, so I'm going to convert into a mixed number. So let's do that last. All right. So if I'm starting with a percent, the first thing I got to do is go become decimal, which I can actually just move my decimal to the left 2 places, or I can type in the calculator and say 5 divided by 100, which is 0.05. Most of us know this 0.05. So go from 0.05 to a fraction. I'm just gonna use my calculator to do it. So make sure if you get a chance, make sure if you don't know how to convert into a fraction, make sure you ask. So most of calculator is F to D command or the S to D command. So F to D is for the TI 30 series or any kind of TI 30s is actually F to D command, which is fraction decimal, decimal to fraction. Casio use a lot of S to D. So it depends on what version of TI you got or the Casio you got. So if you ever run into questions, please let me know. So once I convert into a fraction, that should be 1 over 20. Now, it's very important that we see that all three number, 5%, 0.05, 1 over 20, is actually all representing the same thing. Okay, 5% is 0.05, 0.05 is 5%, 5% is 1 over 20, 1 over 20 is 0.05 or 5%. They all mean the same thing, okay? They just different notation to represent them. And that's very important to understand when it comes to when we do application problems. All right, this is only 1.75%, okay? This is barely over 1%. So if I move my decimal to the left 2 places or divided by 100 in the calculator, that should be 0.0175. All right, now convert into a fraction. I'm just using my calculator to do it. 0 point something, if we started with 0 point something, it will always be a proper fraction. This time will be 7 over 400. All right, this is a percent. This is 11 and 1/4%. That is a percent, okay, because it got percent notation on it. So 11.25%. I'm gonna purposely do this in the calculator. All right, so basically, to get rid of the percent, I got to divide it by 100. But I need to first type in my mixed number first. So let's start out with a parenthesis and say 11 plus 1 divided by 4. I know most of us know 1/4 is 0.25, but I want to purposely show you how to do this as a mixed number way in a calculator, just in case if you run into some weird fraction, okay, portion of this. So 11 plus 1 divided by 4. If I press enter and convert into a fraction, that's 45 over 4, which is actually not the fraction, which this is not the final answer, because I actually never divided by 100. In order to get rid of the percent, you got to remember to type in divided by 100 in the calculator. So the actual decimal answer is not 11.25, but 0.1125. Because if you say the decimal answer is 11 something, that's actually representing over 100%. So 0.1125 convert into a fraction is actually 9 over 80. That's actually the final answer. Okay? So be very careful. If you start out with a mixed number percentage, make sure you type in divided by 100. All right, let's turn this 124% into a mixed number real quick. So basically, I'm starting with a percent. So the procedure is basically the same way. Type in my percentage and make sure we say divided by 100, which the decimal answer is 1.24. So to convert into a fraction or a mixed number, see, mixed number contains a whole number and a fraction. So since my whole number is 1, I know my final answer will be 1 and something. So in my calculator, I no longer need that 1. So we subtract 1 and just turn my 0.24 into a fraction, which is 6 over 25. Now, if you're using a scientific calculator, once you get to 1.24, if you do the F to D most of the time, or the S to D, in a lot of cases, they will actually turn into mixed number for you right away. All right, so in this lecture video, we talk about quickly how to convert. Start out with a fraction, convert into a percent by dividing the fraction, and then times 100 to convert into percent. Vice versa, we start out with a percent, so we basically divide it by 100 first, turn them into decimal, and then convert the decimal into a fraction using the graphing calculator or scientific calculator. All right, that will conclude this lecture video. Thank you for watching.